how it all happened. Even today, there is, and as we have American friends here, so they can tell us that there is that Amish people in the United States, in Pennsylvania. They still live in something like what people used to live as we call the civilized world and all, more than 100 years or 150 years back. So how much energy do they need and how much energy do they use? And that is one of the things we need to keep in mind when we are talking about the challenges and role of any educational institute today, of an energy institute. There are three things which come to my mind. The first, in any energy institute, one is the technical knowledge, of course. The second, the managerial capability. But with that managerial capability, one needs to think who is making the decisions and in what direction all those decisions are being made, for whose benefit. It would be a bit easier to say in a democratic country like India or United States and several others that everything belongs to the people of that country, public interest is paramount, and everything has to be interpreted only in that manner. Whenever the government is formulating, or rather when we can say the legislature is formulating any policy, public interest is at the back of the mind. Whenever judiciary is interpreting anything, again public interest. And that's why people in India, we all know something called a PIL, public interest litigation. A big nuisance for big infrastructure companies, a big nuisance for multinational corporations, because any citizen whose heart beats for India can file a PIL. Even by a small postcard, you can just send it, and that's the way. Even by email now, it has now available. So, and everything can come to a standstill. Multi-billion-dollar infrastructure projects, oil drilling, exploration, everything can be stopped just by one single temporary injunction order, stay order granted by any court in the country. After that, what's going to happen? Will happen. How much time is it going to take? We don't know. Who is going to make money? Lawyers. So, do we want all that to happen? No, practically no. So what do we want in that process? The first thing, when you are talking about energy, petroleum, gas, oil, we are talking about heavy stakes, very large sums of money. And whenever any such thing happens, whenever there are two parties, whether two private parties, two government, one private, one government, one public sector, whatever, there will be a contract. And it all comes under the legal ambit. A contract will definitely have a dispute resolution clause. And if there is not a clause, maybe the moment a dispute arises, then the lawyers will tell you in which court we can file, or if there is an alternative dispute resolution, whether to go for arbitration or not, whether international arbitration or any other arbitration. Now comes the point. Can we avoid those disputes? Can you avoid paying all those money to lawyers and living in a state of uncertainty for years to come or decades to come? Yes, that is a big, big challenge. Along with that, how the government frames those policies. Now, that is very interesting, particularly again in a democratic country. And maybe even worse, you can say in monarchies, where it is the whims and fancy of one single individual, the monarch, one fine morning, whatever comes to his mind, and everything can change. And then there are pseudo-democratic countries, where on paper it is stated that it is a democratic society, but maybe the decisions are made only by one individual or a couple of individuals. And I would not like to say India falls in that category, because you can have examples on both the sides of the spectrum that India, a country where democratic forces work so strong that you can say that in a state of Delhi, a party as old as founded in 1885 had to bite dust. A chief minister for 3 terms and everything is over. But on the other hand, you see the whims of one individual who just thought that this piece of paper, the ordinance which the government had thought, he said this is absolutely nonsense and it should be tore down and thrown into the dustbin. And everything just simply stopped. No more such ordinance. No person in the government stated anything else. So what do you feel like? Whether it's one single individual making the policy or everything in that direction, everything is aligned in that direction. And then we are talking about tens of thousands and lakhs of crores of money which is going to be spent in oil exploration. Whether oil exploration or gas or anything after that, infrastructure, all these issues will be there. So there is a big challenge for the energy institutes today to sensitize their students and to somehow equip them how to deal in such type of uncertain scenario. If this is the legal environment and business environment and political environment in which we are working, then how to manage everything? And whether it is possible to manage everything at all the time? The answer is no, you cannot. Because one cannot simply anticipate. We are not fortune tellers that anyone can say what's going to happen tomorrow. There may be something, a remotest possibility of anything to happen, delta x infinitesimally small. But it may happen and ruin your complete business plans. And you never know. So if there is a RTI, right to information in India, there is a tool called PIL, public interest litigation, then there are things 24 hours, 24/7 media, breaking news, sting operation, anything can happen at any point of time. So if you have taken recourse to whether the professional lobbyists add lobbies as a profession in the United States, but not per se as a profession in India, but there are so many others which may not go ahead there with a tag of lobbies, but they do all that. Yes, so whether they or whether you yourself as a business leader, top corporate leader in any company, hobnob with the people in power, corridors of power, are you able to get all those things in your favor, aligned? But the next question would be, is it all aligned in public interest? Is it all for the interest of the country? And after that, how are you going to take care of your risk? How are you going to save your skin, the benefits of your company, shareholders, the larger stakeholders, and society at large? So these things are the real challenges today, besides technology and other managerial stuff. So at that time, what we somehow need to have is a couple of those systems in place which make it something like what I would like to say as, which insulate them from individual whims and fancies. So it's not only one individual or a group of individuals or a dynasty or a clan which is going to decide something, but it should be insulated from that. And that is one of the biggest challenges. Now, it's not only India, and that is another thing. The moment a society or the people of the country decide to change the way of life, it may be something very, very different. And how can that change may come? It may be a concerted effort by the government itself, or it may be a charismatic leader, or maybe a spiritual thinker, or maybe a social reformer. Anyone can, and we don't know what's going to trigger that. But if there is a change like that, then, because at every point of time we keep on asking per capita consumption, cement, power, this, that, everything. And where is India? Generally in all those tables, India will be very down. And you say, no, we have to, we are a developing country, we need to go up the ladder, and then the per capita consumption in everything should increase. But what about energy? The same question was asked a couple of years back in White House to the representative when George W. Bush was there. And this is in Friedman's book, Hot, Flat, and Crowded, and it would be very interesting when he's talking about code green and code red. So the question was asked that Americans consume so much power. What is the president's opinion about that? What does the president want to say about that? And the president dare not say anything about that, because he simply said, oh, whatever it is, it's the American way of life. God bless you and God bless America. And if that is the American way of life, how can we in India not try to emulate that? If the Indians are aspiring to go up to that level, why can't we have a conference like this in the lawn where the tea was being served or the lunch is being organized? We are consuming so much energy here. There is need to be a different thought process. And that is why we need thinkers, thought masters of thinking. There is an airlines which is coming up with the idea that with your body heat, you can recharge your mobile or laptop while sitting in the aircraft. The body, of course, 37 degrees Celsius, and the ambient temperature in the aircraft roughly 24 or 25 degrees. So there is a difference of temperature, heat flows from higher to lower temperature, and you can capture that. If we are trying to do that, there are those type of carpets and all those, you know it much better, where you walk and with the help of that friction, it all can be converted into energy. Can we have those carpets or something like that in a Kumbh Mela? Just imagine Pragati Maidan or all those railway stations in India. No, on the contrary, we have built, and I'm sorry to say that, the government plans an airport terminal in Mumbai, T2. The photographs are all in the newspaper today. It's like a museum, they have said, the best of the art display. Sorry to say that. We need airport, not a museum. Terminal T3 in Delhi, even for a domestic terminal plus international, you have travelators and everything. How much energy is being consumed? Unnecessarily. So what is all this? This is about a policy change. The biggest challenge will be policy. Policies and law, please remember and appreciate this, that they are made with a stroke of the pen. With a stroke of the pen, everything can change. The president can sign it and it becomes a new law, even if parliament is not in session. An ordinance can be promulgated in India and elsewhere also. Or, no need to sign even. The king, the president, the prince, whosoever is in command, they may be illiterate, absolutely illiterate. With simply the nod like this, the policy and law may change. What happened last week or 10 days back in North Korea? It sent shivers down your spine, even to think what the dictator there has done to his uncle. Or think maybe 500 years back, Akbar the Great, the monarch. Illiterate. But still, maybe prudence, reasonableness, fairness played at that time, and he came up with certain good policies, and there may be discussion about that on both sides. But today, what we need is, most of the energy companies need to think about how to avoid those disputes where you need not unnecessarily put your time, effort, and money, and think about putting all energy in a positive direction where we can think about consuming less energy and making it much more fruitful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Agarwal, for adhering to the time schedule. It was just exceeding, but well managed. We'll summarize in the end, depending on the time schedule we have. Now, the third panelist, Dr.T.Harinarayan from GERMI.
Yeah, my talk actually consists of around 50 slides. I think Dr. Negi has given you only 10 minutes. So that comes to 12 seconds per slide. So instead of rushing through, what I decided was, I just fluff through some slides, but I stay on for few slides. 10 slides I only describe out of 50, depends upon my choice, okay? Right, let me start before making a formal thing. The present discussion is on the infrastructure. What India needs to think is whether to create energy hubs, whether we want a hundreds and megawatts or thousands of megawatts of electricity to be, or whatever the power infrastructure to be generated at a single location, or a small power plants distributed all over India, which is better, or maybe we need to think a balance, an optimal between the two. This is just a comment on the things. We need to think on this direction. There are so many youngsters out there stating here what they want. So they are the future. So you please think about that. So with this small introductory, let me start my thing. This is my roadmap. You don't need to read. Introduction and fuels and other generations. And today I'm going to share, because I belongs to Energy Institute called GERMI. So what GERMI is doing in research, and I'm going to share with you some 4 research papers which has already been published. So those people who are could not understand, they can go to Google and get my papers free of cost. Okay, so lessons from history. If you see, we have been generating for several years, 60 to 70% come from non-renewable energy. And then we realize now, oh, something gone wrong. Let us start correcting it. So now we are talking too much about renewable energy. So this will take some time to develop. So we need to focus more on the renewable energy. We all know that once you are renewable energy, you don't need to depend upon any import of any other fuel. So let us go ahead. If you can think about it, what is the in power sector? We have seen this number, very close to 212 gigawatts of electricity right now we are generating in India. Suppose we think that we want to grow much bigger. Let us, I am very ambitious. Let me put 9% GDP growth. We are expected to generate 1,207 gigawatts of electricity by 2030. So what are your plans? Do we have that much plans with us? This is our target. The ratio is very simple, 5.7, anybody can find it. And this is the non-renewable, which I told you. You multiply by 5.7, you will get it here. You multiply by renewable, you will get 838. and renewable here, you multiply it by 5.7 and you will get 371. What is the total? 1209. Very simple solution. But the question is whether this type of solution is good for India. We need to think about this. And what are the issues in this solution? We don't have non-renewable like oil and gas. We depend upon many other countries, even coal. And also, there are various issues involved in this. We need to think very seriously now. Maybe today we should take a decision. And, we look at our own Puranas we are proud of. Our Puranas have said, don't please depend upon these five for all your problems. That is called, we call it the Panchabhutas, the earth, Prithvi, Vayu, Jal, Agni and Akash. I'm going to talk more about solar. We need to think a little bit more on this. We know our weaknesses as well. We know our strength as well. The strength, we have plenty of sunlight. Today morning, our secretary also told it's free of cost. Sunlight and wind, and we have many rivers, and then we have more than 300 hot springs located all over India. We have vast landmass, very huge landmass. So whether we have a lot of technical paper, like so many youngsters are sitting, these are our strengths. What are our weaknesses? So much of hydrocarbons we don't have. What we are importing it. So we don't have much nuclear fuel. We have thorium, but we don't have importing uranium. Many issues are there in this. So we need to take a decision now whether we use what we have or we go on import what we don't have. This is our decision. We need to think seriously. And then the smart solution could be use more renewable energy, what we have.